And we're also celebrating that we are finally over the 1,000 subscriber threshold. And the really exciting thing is that we hit 1,300 subscribers today. So again, thank you so much to the Soberocity family and to everybody for helping us to get to this point. With that being said, my name is Alexandra Nyman, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Soberocity, which is an online sober community which embraces all looking to enter our community, whether if you are sober curious, new to the recovery community, or questioning your relationship with substances or with alcohol. We welcome all, and we welcome all types of questions on our panels as well as within our Facebook group, which is at facebook.com. And then I think we're the only one labeled as Soberocity. That's just, I'm not going to do the whole long name. It's like Soberocity, a place for the sober curious and for the sober, but just type in Soberocity and you should be able to find us easy peasy. Now, tonight is one of our collab nights, which we've been doing more and more of between Soberocity and Break Free New York Fashion Week. Break Free is a all-inclusive fashion showcase, which featured the panelists that you'll be hearing from tonight. And this panel focuses on disabilities within the fashion industry, which will explore the stories of fashion designer Jacqueline City, models Juliet Sora and Janice McGregor, and their experience of working within the fashion industry while living with a disability and striving to have a career in the fashion industry. I am sure what you will notice from this panel is that everybody here has remarkable, thriving careers, and they are more than happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. So if you have any questions, please be sure to drop them into the Zoom chat, onto our Facebook chat, or in the comments on YouTube. You can also tweet at us at the Soberocity. Enough about all the housekeeping stuff. Let's just jump right on into it. Jacqueline, could you please introduce yourselves to our viewers tonight?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline City. I'm the CEO of Jacqueline City Apparel, and I just showcased for Brave Free New York Fashion Week. I've had my brand for about a little over 2 years now, and it really focuses on inclusivity because I myself am disabled. I have a few different disabilities. The number one I talk about is dysautonomia, so like brain damage and TBI, as well as POTS. A little bit of mental health as well. I talk about openly having PTSD, depression, anxiety, and as I just was talking about earlier, if you were here, autism. Yeah, so that's me.
And Juliet, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Juliet Sora. I'm a model. Mainly, I like to use my platform to advocate for people with disability who are trying to get into the fashion industry on that point of modeling. I'm also autistic, but I also have several different mental health conditions like PTSD, depression, anxiety. And in order for me to work and function in the world, I have a service dog who accompanies me. So that's a big part of my life. And I also like to help other people who use service dogs.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And Jacqueline, so what was your experience? Oh, we also have one more person to introduce. We have Janice McGregor jumping in right now. She was I believe it is the Miss Regal World Canada, and she recently gave up her crown and is now in a transitional period focusing on her epilepsy advocacy. Janice, can you introduce yourself to everybody? You are muted.
All right, thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. My name is Janice McGregor. I am a model and pageant queen. I was International Miss Canada 2018, and I was Miss Regal World 2020 to 2021. And when I competed in Miss Regal World, I was able to represent my parents' home country, which is Guyana in South America. So I've been fortunate to hold national level titles both in my country, Canada, as well as my parents' country of origin. And I currently live in Saskatchewan, Canada.
Thank you so much. That's absolutely incredible. We will start with our first question for tonight, which is for Jacqueline City. Jacqueline, can you tell me about why you decided to focus your brand on adaptable clothing and on this deep-rooted message of embracing disabilities within the fashion industry? And did it have anything to do with personal experiences that you had?
So briefly, my story before I got into fashion was I grew up a creative, doing like a lot of painting, very interested in fashion, even said I was going to be a fashion designer for like my second grade career day, dressed as like with my little tape measure. And I actually pivoted and went towards music until I suffered my TBI and I got so sick I was bedridden and everything. And then like on my road to recovery, I started the brand. And I never really felt like I could pursue fashion when I was in high school or anything because of movies like The Devil Wears Prada. I felt like it was very gate kept. It was for one size, one type of person, like a very privileged, skinny, pretty rich person. Obviously, like a very, yeah. So I never felt like there was a place for me. It felt very ostracized. And so I really wanted to create a place that was welcoming for anyone, any age, any shape, any size, because I also have plus size friends who I know and family members who would go into a store and feel like, oh, this isn't for me. And I don't like that feeling because I grew up like being bullied and not having many friends and feeling ostracized. So I never want anyone to feel that way coming toward my brand. So I wanted to go like around the normal way to create a fashion brand, which is to like intern and then be an assistant designer, and it takes years and years. So I kind of just said, I'm going to do it my own way. It's going to be a little t-shirt brand. It's not going to be a big deal. But then within the first year, I showcased at New York Fashion Week for the first time. And people's comments were all, oh, you're using regular models. Oh, like, and I really felt like, oh no, I'm disabled myself. I want to see more people like me on the runway. So that's when I really took to trying to showcase more body diversity, more disability diversity, and really pivot the brand to not just what I would wear or what I wanted to see on the runway, but what everyone wants to see. Um, Not just people that look like me or people that I'm inspired by, but people that would inspire everyone and feel like they had a place. And affordable as well was a big thing for me. So that's why it was really important to me was my own story and being able to share that with people. And I was really happy to do Break Free because that was the first time that I got to actually cast my models and really listen to them and learn their stories individually. So it was really great to see so many different types of disability on the runway, as well as like gender expression, size, age, and just people, even sober people and people that had really inspiring mental health journeys. Like we had a suicide attempt survivor and that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of topics that I like to bring into the brand that are not just disability, but just important causes that are close to me that I'm inspired by.
How do you feel that since entering into the industry and sharing your message of inclusiveness that others have reacted to it? And do you feel like in some way you're helping to really be a change maker and to lead that way?
I think that with any type of change, you receive hate. So I think that's actually a good sign is when you get that criticism and that pushback and that this isn't the way it's supposed to be. You didn't do it the right way. You're not a big shot. You're not who we think we should be seeing. And that's definitely been happening, especially in the last year. I think in the first year, people were just excited for me. And then when I started to be like, oh no, like I want to see like people in wheelchairs and cancer survivors and talk about taboo topics like addiction and suicide and things like that, then people are like, whoa, that's a lot. This is like a lot at once. I think it's a lot for people to take in. And people only want to see the worst in it. They want to see, oh, this person's now they're doing it for attention. Now this is a gimmick. Now this person isn't educated in these topics. This is only for the mental health clickbait because mental health is like a trendy tag word that we're all just trying to get clicks or trying to get press coverage. And that was never the case, and I know that, so that makes me feel better because I know that what they're saying isn't true, and it's just a projection on of them, and they have to see the worst in people, and they assume that I have some I don't know, ill intent, I guess I'm trying to say. But I know I don't have the ill intent, and I know I'm just trying to break down barriers, and with that's gonna come pushback and negative media. So I think that that really shows me that I'm making a change and not just another brand out there that's making pretty close. But yeah, so I think that I've definitely seen it in a negative sense, but actually that turns out to be a positive to me because I know that that's at least changing people's opinions and changing people's mind. Because for every negative opinion that I see, I'm sure that there's 10 that I don't, that have just looked at it and been like, wow, that's so cool. And then just kept scrolling. And like, that's enough for me. Because I think behind every like one good comment, there's probably like 10 people who did see it and just didn't make the comment. So I like to think of it that way, that we're making it more normal. We're normalizing seeing people with like service dogs on the runway and in wheelchairs and making these taboo topics like mental health normal and commonplace and celebrated.
Well, I think that you should be nothing but proud of everything that you've done and that you've accomplished in the short amount of time that you have been within the fashion industry. And I think you're going to continue to go on to do incredible things. And I was just so overwhelmed when you said yes and that you would participate in the showcase. It was just so great to have you on
Oh,
as a
thank you.
collaborator.
That's so sweet. I loved your message. So I know you know I signed on the first day I got that email. I was like, I don't even have to think about it. You're like, take your time. Let me know. I was like, no, like I'll sign it right now. Like, what do you need? Like I was so excited because you don't encounter many people with like the same vision. I think everybody's usually like out for themselves a lot. You see in fashion and in the entertainment industry in general. They're very like tunnel vision. This is for me. How can I get to the next place? And how can I use you to get to the next place? And I just love, I'm a girl's girl, especially. So I love helping other women. And you had such a very unique vision that aligned with mine um, because of all the mental health stuff. And I'm also sober, but I'm sober by choice, just for clarification. But it's just all the stuff that I really cared about, and I was so excited to be a part of it. So I was excited, just as excited as you.
Yeah,
I'm still excited. I'm still talking about it.
yeah, it's really been daunting working on planning for the second showcase and just making sure that we have a bigger venue to accommodate the kind of demand that we had, because like I did not think it was going to sell out like that. And I also didn't think that we would have people at the door trying to get in, trying to buy tickets. Like it was, and still continues to be, really overwhelming. And I was telling Juliet before you came on that we in 5 months we should hear back from the IRS if we've been approved for 501c3 status for the Break Free Foundation, which will be the nonprofit entity for Break Free New York Fashion Week, where we will have full control of the scholarship fund. And I'm also thrilled to announce that through the Break Free Showcase, we were able to give away 10 scholarships to individuals who suffered from a substance use disorder and could not afford the funds to go to a rehabilitation center. Through our collaboration with 10,000 Beds. We'll be having a press release about that going out, I think next week actually. And 10,000 Beds is now an official partner with Recovery Centers of America. So they are expanding their scholarships and their reach through this official partnership and collaboration between their two organizations, which is absolutely incredible. And it's just humbling to think that like we all came together and did this collectively together, and we really made a difference in these 10 people's lives. And
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
excited for
amazing.
them to have a second chance.
I think that's really amazing because a lot of times you'll donate money to charity and you don't get to really think about it, or you don't really know where it goes or how it's used. But to know that it's directly affected the course of 10 people's lives who will each go on to affect so many lives. So like it'll be such a big ripple effect from just one event. And then think about that for every event you're gonna have. That's like it's gonna be a huge change, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, the goal is to have an entire Break Free alumni network that then we could invite and have events for as well, so that we could really keep up to date and keep in contact with the recipients of the scholarships, and eventually have them share their stories, whether it be anonymously or with them sharing their first name and details of their recovery journey. And it's just
Yeah, that's
awesome to be
amazing.
able to be on the ground level and seeing that come to life.
I'm
So
voting for if you do a gala. I think we need to have like a gala after seeing
yes,
yesterday. We can get really dressed up, do like a break free gala. They have a
I
lot of
would love
fancy ones
that.
for charity. That's just my vote.
I
I
think
think
we
I just
should.
like to get dressed up.
I second
We'll
that.
do our own Met Gala. We can do really crazy outfits, have a theme, and it'll all
Kelsey was
benefit
telling
them.
me she
That'll be
wants to
great.
do that.
Like a red carpet.
Me and Kelsey are always on the same page.
I know, I know, I know. Kelsey was like, you gotta offline with Jacqueline about our evil plans to help people with their mental health. And I was like, you're right, you're
I'm
right.
ready.
Um, Juliet, can you tell me about what your experience was like for this New York Fashion Week season and being able to have your service dog by your side on the runway?
Yeah, so this New York Fashion Week was very busy for me, and I was so happy about it because I did a few of the virtual castings and I did a few in-person castings, and I was very surprised at how well people took to after I was cast in Street Fashion Week, for example. I emailed the producer and I'm like, hey, that little dog that was sitting in the corner during my casting, yeah, she's my service dog and she comes with me. So like I informed her and she was like, yeah, no problem at all. Like whatever you need, as long as she's not like going to cause trouble or anything. And I'm like, of course not, she's fine. And when I got there were some designers that hadn't done the virtual casting, and when I walked for that part of the casting, one of the designers was so excited that even though I didn't walk down the runway with Luna, she saw Luna sitting at the end of the runway waiting for me, and she was so excited to see her, and she said, yes, I want you and I want your dog. Can you walk with the dog? And so Luna debuted on the runway in New York Fashion Week this season the same time as I did. We did all of our shows together except for one. So she did 5 out of 6 runway shows with me. And I didn't ask to incorporate her. I'd figured out ways that she could sit behind and wait. And all the designers that I walked for were like, no, this is great. Like she's cute and she's perfectly behaved. So she's just going to be a plus for us. And I could see that they were doing it from a little bit more of a selfish standpoint, but it was like great inclusivity either way. And it's so much easier for me to walk a runway when I'm not worried about leaving my service dog with a makeup artist who has to run to the end of the runway to give her back to me. Like that's just a bit chaotic. So it's always so much easier when people are just like, yeah, perfect, she can be on the runway, no problem. And I was really happy about that we were always included.
What are some ways that you would like to see the fashion industry continue to evolve? And do you think that the industry is starting to embrace service dogs and the use of them, since they're these cute little fluffy bundles of joy? And do you think that they're really understanding that like this is a service dog, not like this cute little fluffy little guy, like they are here to help me?
I think I would like to see a lot of a change in mentality from the fashion industry, because from what I saw, it was very much like, oh, she's cute, she can go. Like if I had a different kind of service dog that wasn't cute, then, I mean, I don't know what that would be. I can't even think of an uncute dog, but if they didn't think the dog was cute and they didn't want to put it on the runway, it would be a whole different thing. If they didn't think it would be good for their brand. And I know backstage, I had a lot of experiences where like different models and people would just like go up to her and pet her. And I'm like, no, please don't do that. Like it was hard to be expected to explain to people. And that even though she was wearing her vest, I still had that responsibility of being like, no, she's not just here for fun. Like this is something she needs to be focused on me, and you can't pet her, you can't interact with her. Like she's just going to sit here with me. And I think in the environment of a fashion show where everyone's so chaotic and running around and all that, they don't think enough about that. So they'll be like, oh, cute dog, pet. And I'm like, no. So definitely having that, it's not like, I know that there's a lot of people who are faking service dogs. And I know that there are less of them than you can see online, but there's always the assumption that a dog wearing a service dog vest, if a person doesn't have a visible disability, people automatically think that it's a fake service dog. And so people are kind of weird to me when I'm like, no, you can't pet her because she's a service dog. They'll be like, what? Really? And I'm like, yeah. So having that sort of the recognition of her being a service dog as opposed to a cute dog backstage is different. And also people in the fashion industry like to have their dogs there sometimes. And like that a therapy dog that's just there for no reason, but doesn't really have like a task to do, just running around backstage. But sometimes they'll come up and solicit Luna and they'll want to play with her. And I'm like, Luna's working, she can't be distracted by other dogs. So having other non-working dogs in a backstage environment isn't good for people with service dogs. And having that sort of recognized is something that is very important to me, that I'm trying to press on people when I'm working. It's not that I need to be in an environment with a bunch of dogs. It's that this one staying with me is going to be good and she can't be distracted.
Yes, I love that you had your dog backstage, because it was actually a really teachable moment for my father, because my father was going to the bathroom in the basement and he saw your dog and he said, "What a cute dog." And I said, "Oh, but you can't go over there. You can't pet her dog. It's a service dog. Do you see his vest or her vest? I'm not sure. Sorry." um, but do you see the dog's vest? And then he said, "Oh, I'm not allowed to go over there." And I said, "No, you could distract them from their tasks. They're working right now. And people or other dogs act as distractions." So it was really a teachable moment. So I loved telling people not to go over to you when you were down there, because I think not enough people see them, especially smaller ones. I think they see a big dog and they're like, guide dog. This person can't see. I understand that. I can't get in the way of them because they can't see, is really the mentality usually. So I think being able to see different size service dogs is actually a really good thing, because any dog can be a service dog.
Yeah, for sure. And I do always like that when someone takes that responsibility off of me, because I feel like, especially in an environment where I experience selective mutism in such a way where if I'm too overwhelmed with like whatever autistic sensory stuff is going on in my brain, that I will try and make sounds come out of my mouth and it will not work. So when someone's like asking me questions about my dog and expecting me to explain my disability, sometimes I can't. And so having people actually acknowledging the fact that this vest, and explaining it to the people around them like you did, like that's so helpful for people who can't do that. And especially in a backstage environment, I often experience that I have trouble verbalizing, and it's really hard to explain to people. And sometimes I'll end up just like pointing to the vest. So that's so appreciated from the point of someone who sometimes experiences that it shouldn't be my responsibility to educate the populace, right?
Yeah, I think it should definitely be more commonplace, and I think people need to be more educated on service dogs, especially because you need to figure out you do not have to disclose your conditions, which a lot of people do not know. So they could be pressing you like, "What are your conditions?" And that's actually illegal. You do not have to disclose that, especially in this, even in any public setting, you're allowed to bring your service dog, right? And a lot of people are uneducated about that. They say, "No, you can't come in here." You're like, "It's a service dog." They're like, "You still can't come in here." That's illegal. And that's part of the ADA, which is the Americans Disability Act, which protects people with disabilities. So it's really important for people to learn more about what exactly the ADA entails and how people with disabilities are protected and what their rights are. The only two questions that you would ask somebody like Juliet legally are, is that a service dog? And what is the service dog trained to do? Those are the only questions. Is not polite, guys. It's also not polite to even ask to pet the dog. It's not even like a question. Just it's most polite to ignore the working dog completely. So, just so you guys know. And there is no like regulated vest or anything that they have to have, or license. None of that is real. Those are just things that people are online selling. But it is great to have some sort of leash or badge or a vest, like Juliet was saying, just so other people can know. It's only so other people can see. It's not something that's regulated or that they have to have. So if you see somebody with like even just like the harness with the holder, I don't know how to explain it, the guide, um, or anybody who any sort of look for any sort of words or emblem, because it's not regulated, so they won't all look the same, and they're all different sizes. So it's really important to just kind of assume it's a service dog if you see any sort of badge or anything.
I'm so glad that you, a person without a service dog, is so educated on these things. Like, these are usually things that I'm having to teach people in a grocery store. Like, there's a grocery store near me where I went in and the security guard gave me so much trouble about it. I can't go in there again. Like, I refuse because it was too stressful for me to deal with that interaction. And I pulled up the government website for the province that I reside, Ontario. And I have a screenshot of it on my phone because this happens so much. And I pull up the screenshot and I show it to him and he's like, "Are you sure that's real?" And I'm like, yeah, that's the rules. And he did eventually go away, but that experience was so stressful. Like, I can't deal with that a lot of times, especially in environments that are already difficult. So you being a person who doesn't have a service dog and already having all that knowledge, that is amazing.
Do you wish that when you brought your service dog onto a set or onto a runway setting, that there could be some sort of blanket announcement made from the coordinator or from the backstage director to just basically let everybody know, hey, like, we do have a service dog here. Please do not come and pet them. Please do not distract them. Do you feel like that is something that would be helpful to you to relieve you of that burden of having to constantly educate every single individual person you interact with that day?
Yeah, that's actually something I've been putting into place for myself. It's a very difficult thing to do when I'm doing freelance work, and because I'm dealing with the finances, I'm dealing with the booking, and I'm dealing with the whole team. So that's a lot harder because that means that I have to send everybody an email with everything there and make sure that everybody approves it and that no one has questions. But I actually altered my contract with my New York agent and my mother agent that when I'm going to a casting or when I'm going on set, that they will have a notice sent to the casting directors and to the photographers and everyone on set for shoots that I have a service dog and not to interact with it, and that not to be surprised when the model comes in with the dog. So that's something that they're dealing with on their end. And to my surprise, my agents really didn't have a problem with it. I thought I was going to get like, oh, you can't ask for all this accommodation and stuff. Like, it's too difficult. But I'm very lucky that the agents that I have now were like, yeah, absolutely, we can take care of that for you. It's not a problem. So I'm excited to see how that works in the future because it's only been, 3 months since I implemented it. So I haven't had a lot of experience with that rule yet, but I think that's something that people should absolutely have in place.
And Janice, when we were talking about having you on the show, something that we had been talking back and forth about was the lighting and sound sensitivity and ways to kind of navigate and make sure that we wouldn't trigger your epilepsy. Do you feel like whenever you raise these concerns that you can do so and be taken seriously? Or do you feel like in some professional settings, these very reasonable accommodations that you're asking for aren't taken seriously or in some cases are ignored?
It's kind of one of those situations where, I was comfortable raising it with you, Alex, because I know what kind of person you are. But with other people, I know that just raising the question will lead to, oh, we found a model or an actress that's closer to where we're filming or where we're doing our show or shoot. And, a lot of times, I'm not a liability to you. Like, I live in Canada. Like, we have universal health care. If anything happens to me, they're not paying for it. But like a lot of times, because of the ignorance behind epilepsy and the stigma, you just even hint that, I have epilepsy, and people suddenly don't want to work with you. People who have always been like, Oh my God, like people who I've worked with in the past and who have asked for me specifically, asked for me to work with them on another campaign. Once they find out, then they're less likely to work with me. And when I started in the industry, especially with acting, I used to just say, oh, I occasionally faint because, fainting's something that people are familiar with. I've never fainted in my life, but that's what I used to say because, there was no discrimination. And then when I finally was like, started telling people it's actually a seizure, I've never fainted and it's just it's a seizure. And it's sometimes a concern that's taken too seriously and they don't want to work with you anymore. And sometimes they think it's not real, or they think that epilepsy is just what you see on TV, because that's what's going to get the views, the person on the floor frothing at the mouth, flopping around, whatever. But they don't understand that there are over 100 different types of seizures and they don't all look the same. So you staring off into the distance and it looks like I'm daydreaming and not paying attention to you. You know what? That's actually a kind of a seizure. If I'm sitting there just, if I'm talking to you and I roll my eyes, doesn't mean that I'm saying that your direction is ridiculous or I don't agree with your interpretation of the script. That's a type of a seizure. Like, I would never go up to the director and be like, oh, how stupid. Like, if I'm rolling my eyes at you, it's not disrespect, it's a seizure, okay? But those are the less known seizures because on TV, the way that epilepsy is portrayed is someone on the ground. Now, yes, they used to be called grand mal. Now we call them tonic-clonic seizures. Those are a part of epilepsy, the most obvious part, and I do have those kinds of seizures, but they're for the most part under control. And to go back a second to, having to explain service dogs and, people faking service dogs. I myself do not have a service dog, but I do know a lot of people in the epilepsy community who do have service dogs, but they're accused of faking it just to get their pet on set. And it's like, no, actually those dogs are trained to detect a seizure before it happens, and then they bark. And then the person knows, okay, I need to get into a safe environment. So away from staircases, away from sharp objects, lay down on the floor if possible. And those dogs can even roll you onto your side so you don't suffocate. But a lot of people don't know that there are service dogs for people with epilepsy. So I want to thank both of you ladies for talking about the service dogs, because that's something that does tie into the epilepsy community as well. And yes, Alex, to summarize your question, am I taken seriously, or are we as an epilepsy community taken seriously? I find that a lot of times people say, well, there aren't really that many of you, so it's not that big of a deal. Well, actually, one in 100 people have epilepsy right now. And in terms of lifetime prevalence, it's 1 in 26 people. So there are a lot of us. Chances are you already know someone who has epilepsy. So, being sensitive to our needs would be helpful, and it would actually be really great for businesses as well. Musicians, DJs, anyone who's putting on a show or a concert. You could sell a whole lot more tickets if you just say, that it's a photosensitive concert, because there are a lot of shows that, we spend a lot of time online trying to find out whether or not it's safe for us. Then by the time we get an answer, the tickets are sold out. And there are other shows where the tickets aren't sold out. But if you just eliminated the strobe lights, you would have got a lot more people coming, not just from the epilepsy community, but also people who have migraines, because a lot of migraines can be triggered by flashing lights. So from a business perspective, it might be a good idea to keep photosensitive needs in mind. And thank you, Alex, for your part in keeping the epilepsy community a part of your show, because, well, first of all, when I asked you about it, you were just so like, oh yeah, it's already taken care of. So it was like you already had it planned. Well, I guess you did have it planned, but then being there and not having to be on alert, like, was she just lying when she said that? You know, did she just say that to save face? And knowing that I actually was safe and that I wasn't the only person there with epilepsy, yeah, that was a pretty great feeling.
What kind of recommendations and advice would you give to casting directors who want to be more inclusive and who would like to be sensitive to individuals who have photosensitivities? Where should they start?
So I guess a good starting point would be just educating yourself on it. So I'm not suggesting that Google is an adequate substitute for speaking to like a healthcare professional, but a simple Google search could help them understand it. And then also understanding that, okay, there are very few situations where a show or a commercial or a movie needs strobe lights, because it's the make or break aspect of a film. There are very few situations like that. But if you must have them, then add them in post. But I would recommend looking into not having them at all, because I know that in some ways it's good. Well, and anytime that you're going to have something that's a potential trigger, it's good to have a warning. So I noticed that Netflix has a photosensitivity warning at the beginning of certain episodes of certain shows. So that's helpful. But there are a lot of shows where there should be a warning, but there isn't. But again, for any show, movie, or even music video or concert, maybe those lights are not as necessary as you think, because Backstreet Boys, a couple days ago, they released like episode 4 of their making of the DNA concert tour. And Kevin, my favorite Backstreet Boy, he was talking about the importance of lights. And for anyone who follows the Backstreet Boys on Instagram, like me, yeah, they perhaps should have a photosensitivity warning on their website, so people like me know that we probably shouldn't be there. And, I was watching Kevin and he was talking about how, the lighting is important and how it really makes the show. But as a person who's been a fan for over 25 years, even removing all of my biases towards them, I really do think that they would have a phenomenal show, an absolutely phenomenal show, even without the lighting. And I've seen them live twice before. and they are a great live act. And I understand that they're older now. Perhaps they can't dance as well as they used to. Their voices have changed. I understand all of that, but I don't think that the lights that they use are necessary because they still are great singers. They're amazing vocalists. They're great dancers. And the lights are an unnecessary touch that puts a lot of fans in a position where it's like, okay, well, I bought your merch. I buy your albums. Yeah, I still use CDs. I've supported you for over 25 years, and now I can't go to your show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. I knew you would sneak Backstreet Boys in. I knew it. You always do, every time.
Have we ever had a phone call where I wasn't like, oh my gosh, did you see the post on the Backstreet Boys Instagram?
No, it's never happened. Like it wouldn't be a conversation or a panel with you on it without a honorable
Backstreet
mention
Boys
to
or
Backstreet
Elvis.
Boys. Yes. And now you've mentioned both. So we have officially hit the Soberocity webinar bingo card. And with that, we are going to wrap things up. We'll start with Jacqueline. How could our followers find you if they wanted to continue along and follow your journey?
I'm at Jacqueline City on Instagram, and jacquelincity.com is my website. So you can just look at my name, Jacqueline City, and everything. Every social media is just Jacqueline City.
And Juliet, how could we find you?
So I'm on Instagram at Juliet, JULIET.Sora. So I'm pretty active on Instagram. I'm trying to figure out TikTok still. I have one video out for my trip to New York, but hopefully I'll figure out a little bit more soon. It's the same on there at Juliet.Sora. Yeah.
And Janice, how can we find you?
I guess I'll either go to any Oilers game or Backstreet Boys concert, and no, I'm just kidding. I'm not a groupie. Not officially. I guess Instagram would be best, and I'm at ms.janice_McGregor. So that's Ms. as in MS JANICE_MECGREGOR.
Well,
And if you're
thank
not
you.
on Instagram, but you have any questions, you can just put them in the YouTube comment box, and I'll be happy to do what I can to, answer questions or help you find resources that can answer your questions.
Well, thank you so much to all of our wonderful panelists tonight. Thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening with us. Thank you to the Soberocity and the Break Free fam for tuning in. Thank you to our subscribers on YouTube and for helping us to hit our first official milestone. Hopefully this will be the first of many. Our next panel will be in June, and this will be our Sober Pride panel backed by popular demand. And we will be hosting it during New York City Pride Week. Again, my name is Alexandra Nyman from Soberocity. You can follow us at The Soberocity on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and now YouTube. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and happy Mental Health Awareness Month. We'll see y'all soon. Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And Alex, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you. All right.